I'm going to be talking a little bit about my farm, which is called FiddleHop Farm. It was given that name because myself and my business partner, Evan Price, grow fiddleheads, which if many of you have eaten them in restaurants here in town, you've probably had ours, and of course, hops. Now, hops are a very important, really an integral part of the beer-making process. One of the problems with them, however, if you're a craft brewer out here, is the fact that they don't indigenously grow out here very well. They will grow, but for the quantities and the quality that you need, they have to essentially be brought in from the Pacific Northwest. But myself and my business partner, because we were very, I guess you would call serial entrepreneurs, we had other businesses before this, we said that, well, certainly, there's a need, we can fill it. There was a bit of challenge with this. So what really happened first was Evan and I, we did our research, then we went into Garrison Brewery, which is a local brewer, and we said, we can do this for you, don't worry about it. So they signed on for 5 years. They're going to get everything that we want, that we'll be able to produce for the next 5 years. Now the challenge that really was the fact that we are hard adherents to the entrepreneurial sort of principle that you fake it till you make it. Now the challenge for that is this. My farming experience was next to nil. I think I had sea monkeys growing as a child. Evan had none. In addition to this, we had no money to buy roots, and hops require a lot of trellising, 12 to 16 foot trellises. We had one problem, as you'll see with this next picture of our trellis. It didn't exist. Being young entrepreneurs, we knew that this could also be solved. We would just start asking people for money. There's lots of money out there for innovative people, right? Lots of money, innovation, innovation, innovation. You hear about it everywhere. But the strangest thing happened. We started asking around, and people were saying, we can't give you any money for this. This isn't new. This has been done before. This isn't innovative. And I don't know, my idea was this was super innovative, like no one else was doing it. So what I decided was that I would look closer at really what the nature of innovation was, and really how come we were coming short. Now, what I've really discovered was what people were looking for these days to invest in were inventions, were inventive innovations, things that were created anew, IT, biotech, genomics, proteomics, which is very important drivers of the economy everywhere, but there's something lost about it. There's the fact that a lot of the innovation that we have to go through these days are going to have to adhere to a larger context, that basically a low-energy context that we're moving towards. Inventions themselves don't necessarily mean that they're going to be innovative. For instance, here's an innovation from 1930s London for people who wanted their kids to get more sunshine and more fresh air. It's called the baby cage. Now you can see here that inventions are not necessarily innovative. They don't necessarily adhere to a larger contextual fitness. And that is the main difference between invention and innovation. Inventions can be innovative when they fill a need that is actually needed to be filled. So, the conundrum was finding out that yes, we were innovative, but we weren't inventive. Now, look at some of the innovations that are going to change the way that we live in the next 100 years. Wind turbines. Innovative? Yes. But is it inventive innovation? No. 1900-year-old. If you read Hammurabi, it may be as old as 3,400 years, this technology. Bicycles. Completely going to change the way cities work. Very old technology. This is a sailboat. And once again, 6,000-year-old technology. The Phoenicians, the Egyptians, the Koreans all built societies and empires off of sailboats. Innovative but not inventive. This is a passive cooling, heating house with thermal massing. Do you know what we used to call dwellings that had thermal massive and passive cooling? We called them caves. So the idea here is it doesn't matter if it's innovative necessarily for everything. We have to look at the bigger context, and we have to look to see where the world is going. The context of the world, as I mentioned, is heading towards low energy. And I also said that innovation is about ideas whose time has come. But sometimes the time catches up. So we have to look back to the things that we used to use before. So reversive innovation. Now, what does this have to do with hop farming, you say? Well, essentially, everything that we have done on our farm has been reversive innovation. Hops, they've been growing at least in Bavaria since the 8th century. Organic, local, low energy. We had a whole bunch of people talk about that today. A very, very important concept that we are going to have to adhere to. But one thing that I think is the most important reversive innovation that is going to change the way farming is done and communities are built over the next 100 years, if we were to have a stable society, is this. Is it looking at this fact? Right now in the OECD countries, it is the worst time to be a young person. If you are under 25 years of age, you have the same chance of getting a meaningful job as someone who was walking around the Dust Bowls of the American Midwest during the 1930s. The jobless rates then were 25%. Right now for youth throughout the developed world, it is 25%. That is staggering. So, what are we going to do about it? Where are all the jobs? Right now, in Canada, we are losing 11 farmers a day. The average age is 55. It's older than that in the States. The same amount of land is being farmed, but it's being farmed by agribusinesses. These large pictures that we saw earlier of just massive, massive areas being done by less and less people. They're losing the culture. We're losing all the wonderful things that Sean talked about. The experience of basically having the hands-on food, being connected to the land. So what I really think the biggest reversive innovation will be coming back to this. And this is, we've actually not only sold all of our hops for the next 5 years, but we basically have sold all of our fiddleheads too. So we have a lot of time basically to think about these things. But the next thing that we think is going to be very, very important is this, is looking at the way farming used to be done. The way that the community used to be involved on the ground, hands-on hands-on tools and basically just essentially working the dirt, understanding firsthand what it means to be a farmer. Because there are young people there, and that's how it was driven. It had nothing... This is what our farm looks like right now. Young people out there. We're laughing. We're having a good time. Maybe we're not as efficient as we have to be, but does that matter? No, because we've sold everything and we're going to do fine anyway. But it's this. We have to start looking more closely at new types of innovation, at reversive innovation. The world is changing. It's moving forward, but in a lot of ways, it's going back to the old contexts, the old knowledges that are going to be the most important, that are going to get us through these difficult times. Because the success of Evan, my business partner, and I have very little to do with the business model we set up, as the fact that we took part in Sean's revolution and we went and did it. It has less to do that we took essentially a risk, but more that we went into the country and we decided to lay down some roots. Thank you.